Here we go.
Ready?
That's right. Don't drive on Hell Road when you're in Delaware, because there could be some black magic. There could be some witches. Hello, welcome to Rhythm and Pixels, a video game music podcast. We are your hosts. My name is Rob Nichols.
And I'm Pernell.
And every week we listen to great video game music from all consoles and all generations.
And even all ghost houses.
Yeah, so no matter which ghost house that you ended up in, we will be there.
Keep your company and bop heads with you. That's how we do.
There we go. I had you a little loud there, Pernell. Don't worry about it.
Today has been a strange day for the both of us.
Yeah, we had
many ways.
We had some spooky technical issues at the beginning of the stream. I apologize. I should have had that ironed out ahead of time, but I honestly just didn't do it. So, but that's okay. That's
Pernell
okay.
is a black magic giant.
That sounds like a really good rock song, like a name for like a.
He's a black magic giant. He's casting happy magical spells.
That's pretty good.
That's right. And I also sound like that guy from freaking Stone Temple Pilots. There it is.
That was pretty good. Yeah, it's your same voice.
It's just me, but I'm now Stone Temple Pilots man.
Anyway, every week we listen to great video game music from all consoles and all generations. If it sounds good, we are going to play it. And once a month, we do a live streamed recording of our episode for our Patreon members, and that is this week's episode. So we are looking again at the genre of horror.
And just get this out the way for all the patrons in the group. If you have thoughts on what a topic could be for next month while we're talking, feel free to dump them in the chat, because we may well be able to just come up with it while we're talking today. Yeah. So it gives you a full month. But yeah, horror as far as it goes. Like last week when we did horror, I think Rob played it to the letter, and I got a little dopey with it.
To the letter.
Yeah, you were to the letter. Your horror was horror. My horror was, this is a happy-go-lucky track, but it's because I ate too many bran muffins one day and got sick. So that was a horror. But as a result, I guess it kind of also sets a precedence to like what we were thinking about with the patrons choosing horror tracks too. That is, it could be whatever means horror to you. It could be genuine horror. It could be like story time horror. It was horror because this boss beat me against the wall 15 times. Whatever floats your boat, your haunted boat.
Yeah,
go with it.
Whatever, if it's like something scary in the game or something scary outside of the game, that's kind of what we were asking for. I know that a lot of scary music can be very atmospheric and not the most exciting to listen to. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. And we were also talking about we're going to call it the Hellmouth outside of Pernell's house, in which demons are congregating and talking about just trying to steal Pernell's game collection, or maybe his Garbage Pail Kid card collection.
Satan wants a turbo duo.
Satan wants a turbo. That's the name of the episode. Satan wants a turbo duo. And we can't find one cheap anywhere else, and so he's going into the Hellmouth in Wilmington, Delaware.
Oh my God. Oh yes, I forgot. I told that story otherwise. I was about to say otherwise I'd have to talk about Bomberman now, but Chris Steenerson brought it up. And I was like, shoot.
Well, that's right. So Bedroth asked in our chat that Shoot Kapow wanted to know, how did you become so good at Bomberman?
Oh.
Like, really?
I don't know. I literally just did one day. That Magical Drop 3 are my games that I typically consider to be my natural skill games. Like, I didn't practice them. I didn't try them. Oh, I tried them, obviously, but I didn't practice them. I didn't develop any sort of strategies. I just started playing them and was good. Like, there was... And actually, Mike Myers is in the chat. He can vouch for this statement. I have never been bad at Magical Drop 3, ever.
The opposite of satisfying that anscer is...
It is. It's the truth.
It's the worst answer. I was just really good at it.
I've played games where I legitimately had to practice and beat my head against the wall to get good. I acknowledge that.
Yeah.
But those two games, I seriously like, Magical Drop is the best way to explain it, because with Magical Drop 3, I was in college, and I was at an anime club, and they were playing a bunch of import video games. This was my first exposure to import gaming, was at this group. And a group of people were playing Magical Drop 3 on the Saturn. And it looked really cool to me. It was very fast-paced and active, and I just enjoyed watching these guys play this game. And I was like, how does this game work? And the person's like, oh, the bubbles fall down, you grab them, and you throw them back up. And basically, again, there's a simple concept. It's just the execution that's a challenge, right? Mm-hmm. So after a couple of matches, I was like, hey, can I try too? And the guy goes, sure, here, take the controller. I went undefeated. I legitimately went undefeated. Guy comes up and goes, how are you letting this scrub beat you guys? He's never even played the game before. I beat him too. It just was a natural skill. Bomberman, I smote him. Bomberman, the first Bomberman I got into was, it's hard to, I can't remember if it was Bomberman 93 or Super Bomberman 2. But with those games, same logic, got it in the house, I'd play with family members and some local neighborhood friends.
You realize
and again,
how much
I would just spank
an anomaly that is, where it's like being good within your group, in your friend group, in your family group, to being good outside of that doesn't always translate.
Oh, I agree. That would be me in Smash Brothers. I'm horrendous at Smash Brothers, but with my friends, I was great back in the day.
Now, I'm going to be honest. I was never good at Bomberman. I think everyone can relate to having a specific game or a specific type of puzzle that your brain just naturally picks up quickly. And Bomberman is one of those games that I just can't do. Devil Dice, or it's called Bombastic.
Yeah, that would be a good example. I feel like Bombastic, I was good at that from damn near to start too.
That is a game where you're rolling dice around a screen to match them up so that when you flip them onto its top side, it matches up to the other ones in specific sequences. And that, to me, that's just too much for myself to handle, because I never think about dice in that way. But that's just a little too much. But how about this? We will get started with some awesome music, with some testimonials written by the people who suggested some of these tracks. So our first track, I'm going to pick this one from Bedroth, because he also was very active in the chat room just now. So this is the track from the game Terraria, and the track is called Corruption, and it is composed by Scott Lloyd Shelly. All right, you're listening to Corruption from the game Terraria, composed by Scott Lloyd Shelly. Bedroth put a little side note in his email saying that he wasn't sure. He's heard it pronounced Terraria and Terraria. But
I think it's Terraria because of terrarium.
That's what I'm going to say. I've heard the word terrarium used as kind of a small...
like an aquarium for something that isn't a fish.
Like a reptile or something like that, right? A reptilian.
There's also another video game called Void Terrarium where it's the same concept. You're raising a human in a glass jar.
Oh, that's interesting. I like that idea.
It's really good, actually. I love it.
Well, Bedroth says in his email, my sons and I played the heck out of the 3DS version of this game, and Shukapow has also spent a lot of time with the PC version, which is much more robust. For those who don't know, Terraria is a side-scrolling adventure, crafting, exploration, survival game. It doesn't have much of a plot, but the characters and the enemies and the world itself have a lot of charm, and if you investigate online, the game is surprisingly lore-heavy. It's definitely much more than the people who dismiss it as a 2D Minecraft wannabe or wannabe make it out to be. There are several creepy tunes in this game, but this one stuck out to me for some reason. I like the cool synthy melody that somehow fits perfectly with the overall creepy vibe. The corruption itself is a biome that is created out of all the evil thoughts and tendencies of Terraria's inhabitants. One of the main goals of the game is to keep the corruption from spreading into the other biomes. And as a side note, in half of the randomly generated worlds, the corruption is replaced by the crimson. I don't have time to get into the differences here, but it's worth checking out. This is the music that plays in the overworld when you're in a corruption biome. I like this. This reminds me a bit of there was a time in the 90s where you would go to a Sam Goody, like a music store.
I remember that store.
And you could buy CDs and tapes of scary sounds to play like at a haunted house or at a Halloween party of like screams and stuff. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, I love that kind of stuff.
In the 90s, especially in the late 90s, they started selling it was like scary sounds but like set to rave music. And so it was kind of scary, kind of techno-y sounds like this, but with like screams and blood curdles type scraping and stuff like that. Yeah. So it kind of reminds me of that. And I remember hearing that for the first time and being like, oh, I'm into this. I think I like this, like legitimately.
The funny part is like I just kind of get this like nice like a vibe of you walking through like a cave that isn't quite scary or dark. It's kind of like happy-go-lucky, yet also in need of a serious candle. Like, boop, 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 boop.
Yeah,
water's dripping from the ceiling. Boop, boop, boop.
I think it has to do with Terraria being overall a chill style game, but with really dangerous elements still, because the survival thing is in play. It's like Minecraft. Like Minecraft's like fun and chill, but there's still things out there trying to kill you, right?
Mm-hmm. Delicious things trying to kill you. Actually, Minecraft I want to do more with, actually, because it's a game that has its scary moments when you mess around with creepers, but even if you like decide to play around, like when I was playing with my nephew back in the day, one thing I thought was really fun was trying to dig as far deep as I could to build like a sort of like secret escape hatch tunnel, and then eventually decide to become like an underground clubhouse. But you start to dig so far, and if you screw up on digging an actual stairway to get back out, you're kind of stuck at the bottom of this giant pit.
Isn't there like there's like a gateway to like a hell world like in the bottom too, I think, or there's like somewhere hidden in the game. I think there's something like that.
Really?
Yeah, and I think this is becoming a weird, creepy theme of our show, of having weird tunnels to hell outside of our homes.
Yeah, well, there it is. I mean,
it exists in Minecraft, maybe Terraria too. It's the corruption.
I think if there's one thing I can at least take away from this craptastic situation in front of my house, is the fact that I can at least say it was well timed for Halloween.
Yeah, right.
And for this episode.
At least it's there to scare everybody.
Mm-hmm. Don't walk too close to it.
All right, so what's your first pick?
Let me see what's popping off on my... You know what? I'm just going to go from the top.
All right.
Go and get that Soulless Sanctuary pick. Which, for the record, congratulations on your pick getting shared, or your photo getting shared in Shin Megami Tensei Hell, because it was well-deserved and wonderful. And I was actually excited to see it, and I was like, I gotta share it in the group! I know who drew that! But anyway, this is from the game The House of the Dead. The track title is called The Magician. It's from the arcade version, and is composed by Tetsuya Kawauchi.
I know this boss very well.
I'm gonna suffer like G did. Welcome back. You're listening to The Magician from the House of the Dead. My best impression. From the arcade game, composed by Tetsuya Kawauchi and submitted by Soulless Sanctuary, friend and listener of the show. She came up with a solid testimonial. Let's get that bad boy spoken. So what did she say? So my pick for the Halloween episode would be this cool track from a really low-key fave series of mine, The House of the Dead. Why is it low-key, you ask? Well, I'm not too sure of that myself. I can say, however, that The House of the Dead is usually my go-to arcade game during my days in college. House of the Dead 4 was pretty huge in the Philippines at this time when it was released worldwide, alongside a new Tekken title, henceforth why it was a big deal. Recently, however, I found myself digging up some actually neat lore about the franchise. Even though the franchise itself is pretty silly in nature, which is actually the best part. Let's be real, though. Let's be real. Right now, I'm in love with Overkill. And honestly, Purnell addendum, I agree. It has like a pseudo Samuel L. Jackson in it. Who could not love it? Back to the testimonial. Because of the writing and dialogue, despite how crude and super potty mouth the game is. Now I'm just hoping that the latest title, Scarlet Dawn, will be out worldwide soon. Hopefully as soon as the pandemic is over. As for the title suggestion, because of my assumptions, I was thinking you guys should try to listen to VGMs based on the major arcana. Write that down! I'm sure you guys can be really creative with this one. I trust you guys in your amazing, ever amazing taste in VGMs. And yes, Purnell, I won't be surprised if you pick a song from the Persona series. Well, that's good, because I'm gonna. Just saying. Also, it's funny that I'm learning from her testimony that there's a new House of the Dead game on the horizon. Yeah, I didn't know about Scarlet Dawn.
I don't think I ever played past the second one with any kind of frequency. But no, the first one I played a ton of, and the Magician is the final boss of the game. Incredibly difficult.
All of these games are freaking hard. I only played the second and the third one, so I never played the first, believe it or not.
There were a lot of, because it was a light gun game, especially the first one, and I think the second one too, was a light gun game in the very traditional sense, where it was capturing the light after the screen would flash on the screen itself, and you can only reload by shooting away from the screen, so that it wasn't capturing anything at all. So it was either capturing a hit, a miss, or a reload. So what you would do to reload faster is you would shoot as quickly as you can, and then put your hand over the front of the gun, and then quickly fire again, and then you just keep doing it back and forth, back and forth. It was kind of cheap.
I gotta say though, and I hope, Eli, if you've never played Typing of the Dead, you need to get on that train, because I like House of the Dead, but Typing of the Dead was the epitome of that franchise.
So Typing of the Dead is like if typing tutor in a super violent zombie shoot 'em up game had a baby, and which is so strange, but that was for the image for last week's episode. That was what I wanted to do, was to have you and me with like Dreamcasts on our backs with like little keyboards in front of us. But I couldn't figure out a clean way to do that with the images that I have, because usually we're together in the same room taking dumb photos of each other for the show. But because of the pandemic, I've just been picking out photos from your Facebook.
I mean, I can always go to drive over to the house and you just take a photo of me like tripping onto the pavement or something. I know, that is possible.
I never know when I'm like doing the editing, so it's just suddenly I'm here. I'm like, I need a picture of Purnell standing in a really funky way.
Fortunately, he has 20,000 pictures on the internet.
Yeah, I'll just pick one of those. Hope you don't mind. It's from 10 years ago.
Hey, I'm fine with that. My face honestly hasn't changed, because black don't crack, baby. And I'm cool with that. But to give you an understanding of why you should play Typing of the Dead. So earlier I mentioned the chainsaw boss, and I think that's also my favorite boss in the entire game, because as we talked about earlier, Typing of the Dead is the idea, instead of firing bullets at enemies, you have to type words or letters to kill the enemies on the screen. But with the chainsaw chase boss, what the game decided to do was make us in order to stop him from chasing you, they wrote mini short stories.
That's right.
That were very nonsensical and ridiculous, and you had to type the entire story before he caught up to you. and then I would stop him, and then give you another one. It would be some of the dumbest stuff. Like, I went to the basement the other day to find my pet goldfish, but unfortunately, it turned out the pet goldfish wasn't down there. Instead, I found a rat. It was a magic rat.
It's like all
the rat
like,
ate the goldfish.
It's all there to like really throw you off. Like you're supposed to think you're going to type one word, and then it's going to be like, nope, it's goldfish. Like,
it is ridiculous. A guy loved it.
Really good.
And then the final boss can literally go to hell.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. It's hard. All right, so our next track is going to come from Mats Holmqvist, and this is the Sky Palace from Kid Icarus for the NES. And if I'm right, I believe it's composed by Hirokazu Tanaka. That little part right there. That part right there is the scary part.
No scary part about the track.
You're listening to Sky Palace from Kid Icarus, composed by Hirokazu Tanaka for the NES, which to me it sounds like he was right next to Koji Kondo, who was composing for Legend of Zelda. It's got a very similar kind of a rhythm to it. But that was picked by Mats Holmqvist, and he says, when I saw the word horror, I immediately came to think about Kid Icarus. For some reason, I got hold of the code Danger, Terror, Horror, which makes you fully upgraded to the last level of the game, and killing Medusa is way too easy. So I want to suggest this lovely tune. There's also the code Duvans Mamor Kommer Borat, which actually is Swedish and translates roughly to The Pigeon's Mother is Coming Away. So, and that's from our Swedish listener, Mats Holmqvist.
That gives me an interesting feeling, though. It makes you think about the fact that those like worded passwords were truly different between countries. Like, it may not have necessarily always been Justin Bailey. I guess Justin Bailey would have been because that was a specific reference. But
maybe that's true. There were European releases and North American releases, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So maybe the European releases had worded passwords that were suited to them.
Because we did have a password that was The Pigeon's Mother is Coming Away, right? No,
I'm pretty sure we did not.
No, I don't remember. I've actually never played Kid Icarus. A lot of the classic, original NES titles, I've never really gotten around to playing.
Kid Icarus, I've played both of them. The original. Well, I guess there's three now, but I played the original and I played the Game Boy one. Loved them both. Though I can honestly see bits of horror in the game itself. Like this track itself, the Sky Palace, I think is pretty cool. But I think when you get to the end to fight Medusa at the time, that was a fairly surprisingly horrible looking boss. Like, it was a giant eyeball with snakes sticking out of a wall.
Oh, wow.
Like, it wasn't like a woman, like a snake woman slithering around firing arrows at you. It was just giant eyeball wall. But even aside from that, I genuinely feel like some of the palace stages, which was the fourth stage of every world in the game, had their own levels of bits of horror to them in that sense, because you were exploring a dungeon that had like a pretty creepy tune that would play over it. And of course, there was Eggplant Wizard, who was a complete jerk. Like a friggin' jerk. He would
wasn't he
hit you.
Wasn't he in that cartoon?
He was in Captain N, yes.
Yeah.
He was a lot less menacing there. But in Kid Icarus, the game, he was pretty menacing, because when he hit you with that eggplant, you became an eggplant man. Or to be more specific, your head did. Okay. Your body was normal. You couldn't fire arrows. You were completely defenseless, but you could still climb ladders, which is pretty handy. But it was a terrifying thing to get hit with the eggplant, because you're stuck running around, waiting for it to wear off in a place where you might not know where the hot spring is. It was a pretty frustrating thing, which in turn I think makes good horror in a game, especially during that era. But I will say, if you haven't played Myths and Monsters, looks like Bedroth has, thankfully. But if you've never played Myths and Monsters, I do agree with Bedroth when he says it's a lot more accessible. It was a much easier game. But I also think that the final stage was cooler. Because in Kid Icarus, the final stage was a flight, like sort of like a side-scrolling shooter, like you were flying and firing arrows from the sacred bow. But in Kid Icarus Myths and Monsters, it was like a platformer still, but you had all this gear on that made you a little bit more powerful, and the final boss was like a weird, like, gargoyle demon. But it was a lot of fun, and also I love the music in the final stage. I think I've played it on the show before. Even.
I think we have, yeah. The music to Kid Icarus is short, but like there's always like a little second movement, like after a couple loops of the tunes, and so it gives it just enough interest to really give you a lot of like replayability, like throughout the track, which I think is really cool, and also unique for an older NES game. This came out in 1980 something.
It came out when they were still labeling games Adventure Series.
Yeah, the Adventure Series. Okay.
Also, Chris Steerson, we got to mention this because I didn't even think about it. He mentioned the Reapers, which should have been said on an episode themed around horror. Their music was goofy and goofy, yet the actual thing that they did was completely frustrating and terrifying when they chased after you on a level. So, but I digress. Let's move forward.
All right. So I think we're on to your next track.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the funny part is, I was going to pick one of Cam Leonard's tracks. Most particularly, I'm going to say what it is, even though I'm not picking it for the episode. It was going to be the Subgate of Clouser Woods from Mega Man Legends. However, the testimonial that he wrote for another track is why it totally beat it out. Because I love the testimonial and I want to read it. So, here we go. This track is Nosk from the game Hollow Knight, composed by Christopher Larkin, and it was submitted by listener Cam Leonard. Welcome back.
Okay, I'm ready for you.
Okay, and this time, for all the zest and vinegar, this is Nosk from the game Hollow Knight, composed by Christopher Larkin and submitted by listener Cam Leonard. So, let's do it up. Let's read this spectacular description that he provided for us. Saw this month's listener suggestion theme and wanted to throw some ideas in the hat. Horror is one of my favorite genres of video games, especially those which use the medium to its fullest extent to tell the story, not only through creepy aesthetics like art and music, but gameplay as well.
Nice.
I am also awful at playing them, as I will panic at the first sign of danger and wind up psyching myself out so badly that I never play it again. That being said, due to my cowardice, I have some horror-inspired tracks from non-horror games that I want to suggest. Nosk from the game Hollow Knight. I'm going to suggest a song from this game every month until you play it, gosh darn it. Well, ta-da! We're playing it. This is absolutely the most terrifying boss in the entire game. It's in the scariest zone. The design is horrifying. Even the approach and introduction of this monstrosity is terrifying, with the creature mimicking the night as you wander through this spider-infested zone of nightmares, until you run into him and he explodes into a skittering, jittery beast. I'll be real, guys, and say when we first encountered this dude, my girlfriend and I jumped, and I'm man enough to admit that I screamed and almost threw the controller. I'm not the best with horror. I love that.
Funny. I was like,
yeah, I'm picking that.
That's a good testimonial.
Yes, it is. And honestly, there's something to be said about games that legitimately make you feel uneasy. Like, there are tons of games that like throw like jump scares at you here and there. It's like, oh, look, a monster, man. It's another to actually have you playing the game. You know it's not real. You know nothing can hurt you, and yet you still find yourself so involved and so absorbed in the experience that you legitimately freak out by stuff when it happens in the game. It's a fantastic and yet also horrible feeling. And that's what makes it great. Like Silent Hill used to do that for me, like in the earlier ones. Yeah. Make you so uneasy. So uneasy. Even though you're looking at the game, it's clearly the graphics are not that great, so it's not like you're like in the middle of it, but you still feel connected to Harry Mason or James Sunderland enough to be like, let's shoot. Go the control of the screen. Or in worst case, like Silent Hill The Room, where you're walking around and then suddenly Walter shows up and starts laughing and firing dual pistols at you. Freaks you the heck out. But Silent Hill, man, horror games, people who say I'm not good with them, I'm too afraid, I gotta tell you, that just makes it that makes it even better for you to play them, because the more scared you are, the better they can do their job. That's what makes them so fun.
Yeah, having interactive media, like a movie can scare you, but like when you're controlling it and you feel like you're in that space, and the stakes are so much higher because it's your fault, it's your problem.
And there's a little bit extra there to it too. Let's say, for example, you're watching a movie with three friends, right? And the protagonist opens the door, and the dude with the chainsaw, so everybody's like, "Run! Go to the door!" And everybody's yelling at the guy. He doesn't make it. He gets chainsawed in the back. But what happens when it's you and three friends playing Resident Evil 3, and you're the guy playing the game when the guy bursts the door and he's trying to beat you down, everyone's like, run! You're like, I don't know where I'm going. You're like running in circles.
Nemesis from Resident Evil 3? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was pretty spooky. That thing would just pop up out of nowhere, man.
And when he dies, you're like, well, I'm screwed, time to run.
When
you don't know where to go.
I played Silent Hill The Room, and there's like you're trapped in your apartment, and for that section of the game, it's from a first person perspective, and you're trying to there's a whole thing of like keeping ghosts away from your apartment, but you can go and look out the peephole of your front door, and every once in a while, like it's just always empty. Then suddenly, like the main bad guys staring at you in the face, and it's just like it is terrifying. He's just breathing.
Walter Sullivan.
Sullivan. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And it's like nothing's really happening. It's like you initiated the jump scare. It's so much worse than the jump scare happening to you. It's like you clicked the button. You had no idea it was going to happen.
You triggered it.
It was just there. Yeah. Great. All right. So let's move on to something even more terrifying. This comes from Chris Steenerson, and he suggested Stage B, the Dracula Battle from Super Castlevania 4 for the Super Nintendo, composed by Masanori Adachi and Taro Kudo.
Game over.
So this is the Dracula battle into Dracula's death. Dracula is dying. He's dying.
Until the sequel.
And he's dead.
Until later, when he comes back somehow.
That song is a journey. This was Stage B, the Dracula battle, and then Dracula's death from Super Castlevania 4 for the Super Nintendo, composed by Masanori Adachi and Taro Kudo. And Chris Anderson says, maybe a little obvious in terms of horror video game properties, but here's a Super Castlevania 4 track anyway. I finally played through all of the game a year or so ago and was really surprised by the final boss music. Instead of being crazy and intense, it was atmospheric and moody. It gave the battle a tone that I don't think I've ever encountered in another game's final battle. It made it feel like, however the battle played out, there were going to be some serious ramifications. And I like that. I like that the battle was probably really intense and fast, but the music was just really spooky.
I honestly kind of wonder if his mentioning of he played it, like when he played it, was with us. Because I know I played it for the first time like a year or two ago, and it was through Rhythm and Pixel's Game of the Month.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I forgot that it came up. I played through maybe about the first half of the game, to be honest. I'm not good at video games, and this is a long one. It's hard.
I actually believe that. I think Super Castlevania 4 was pretty tough, too. Though I'll admit, the multi-directional whip did add a bit of ease to the gameplay in general.
Oh, yeah.
They decided to balance it out by just making a lot of scenarios harder.
Especially compared to like the other Castlevanias, where like it's just the one whip going in one direction, and it's just, you hit it, or you got to recover, and you're going to get hit by a zombie dog.
But they do balance it, because if I remember correctly, and I guess Chris can correct me if he remembers, but I don't think they made you commit to jumps in 4.
No, I think you're right, though. I think there was a little bit more play in the jumping. And that might have also been Bloodlines from the Genesis also.
That game is brutal, but it has some of the best level designs in the series.
Oh, and some of my
very
favorite
creative
music,
stuff.
too. Yeah.
The last stage, I think I played that on the show before, too. The last stage is a gem. It's when you're like going up into like the background and the foreground. I think at one point you're upside down.
Yeah,
it's just good.
It's the backgrounds, the artwork, and the lore of all the classic Castlevania games. I find really actually super intriguing. I do want them to make one in the future though, where Dracula is resurrected and he's like, "Why does this keep happening? I want to stay dead." You play as Dracula, and it's kind of like a tactical game where you're putting zombies and bats in the way of the Belmont family trying to come get you, and it plays over generations.
You're dead eventually. At the end of the game, you're trying to kill yourself. Like, I just don't want this anymore.
Yeah, I don't
want this.
Every level is another 100 years.
Futuristic Dracula's like cyborgs and it's like, what the heck's going on?
And you wake up and you're like, why am I back in Castlevania?
With the complete slowdown there.
Yeah.
Because I feel like certain things like that, they deserve a tongue-in-cheek impression. Because, again, quite frankly, the idea of Dracula being resurrected constantly, I'm sure as Dracula, it starts out seeming pretty awesome. It's like, you may have defeated me, but I'll be back. Eventually, he's like, I'm just tired of this. I'm tired of humanity. I'm tired of fighting this same family. Why do they keep following me?
There's some like meta kind of callbacks to the original series within Bloodstained, but not so much of of humor in that way. I think that would have been really good.
I would have been on checking that. Honestly, Bloodstained, I need to play more of, but I stopped with that stupid tower.
Oh, yeah, the scrolly tower that spins around.
Yeah, it was at the time. It was like slowing down like to a halt. To the point where I was like, it was frustrating. So I was like,
okay, that was a bug that was fixed. I am at the end game where I can choose to either do the optional last 2 bosses or do the final boss, and I have decided that I won't.
Oh, come on, you played so far, just grind or something.
No way. No, I'm not. I'm done grinding. I feel like I got my gist. I got my full of that title. I played a lot of it.
Chris Steederson just made a comment that just clicked for me. It didn't even make sense until now. So Chris Steederson goes, "This castle is so hard to clean every time." But then, if you've played the later Castlevanias, Dawn of Sorrow and Aria of Sorrow, they actually introduce a maid enemy. I wonder if that's why they're there.
The maid actually goes around and cleans up all of like the dead zombies or not the dead zombies, but like
they keep the castle clean while while he's still gone. And when he comes back,
yeah,
we cleaned it just like you asked, Dracula. Thanks, girls.
That's
Here's
true.
some money. Go to the tail.
The rooms are falling apart and the chandeliers are coming down, but everything is very clean. The candles are lit. You know,
that's right. Thank Persephone. She did it.
She did it. Sorry, what's your final track for the evening?
So, what will my final track be? It could be anything. It could even be a track. But instead, I'm going to go with this slammer of a banger from our friend Hermit. This is from the game Battle Golfer Yui, and the track title is called Mad Professor. I love that this is like in a horror themed episode.
I know.
Composed by Nakachan 3-Sai, Kentakun Yada, Maruchan wa Omotta, and Masayuki Nagao.
Now, clearly, we have some aliases going on in there. I didn't look up their original, like their actual names, because I really like their aliases. Nakachan 3-Sai.
They're fun to read too.
They sound like a fun, like Japanese boy band, you know.
Nakachan 3-Sai. Welcome back. You are listening to the Mad Professor theme from the game Battle Golfer Yui for the Sega Genesis, submitted by our buddy Hermit and composed by Nakachan 3-Sai, Kentakun Yada, Maruchan wa Omotta, and Masayuki Nagao. So, what the heck is the deal with I tell you, I think there's been a couple episodes where we've had Battle Golfer Yui tracks on the show, and it's got me to the point where I actually want to play it, and I need to know what makes it battle golfing. Is it just golfing, or is there a battle taking place, like hit points based on getting hole-in-ones and stuff like that? Like, do they throw a spin on the golfing element to make it more of a fight?
You know, that's a really good question, because I don't know.
Because I want to know now. But so one of these days, probably in the near future, especially if it's on it's on Genesis, so I can play it on like a freaking like Retropod. I'll find it. But what did he have to say? This would be a shorter scenario, but I'm gonna still describe it as he put it. He says, "It It starts out very ominous and then gets a little funky. Because mad scientists know when it's time to work and when it's time to play. Mad scientists play hard.
What?
That's what Hammock said. I mean, hey.
That is the most Hammock thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, I loved it. I was like, hey, I can appreciate that magic.
I gotta tell you, this is my favorite track of the evening.
This one?
This one.
I think it's a fitting one. It's
good. It's really, really good. It's I mean, as far as like the funkiness of the Terraria track, like this one's got it. This one's got it all, man. I like it a lot.
Oh.
It's got some funky slap bass.
What's your second favorite track?
My second favorite track is going to be the Dracula track. Yeah. Right. What's been your favorite so far?
Honestly, I think I'm still kind of in the level of... I like this Mad Professor one also. But in addition to that, I'm a big fan of that Magician track.
That was really good, yeah. That was very classic, like Nintendo-y, too. Not Nintendo, I'm sorry, Sega Arcade. I was looking at the Kid Icarus track.
In fact, that was the part that sold me. I was like, I gotta take this track.
The guitar.
This sounds really good.
The guitar did it for you? I knew the guitar would do it for you.
It has to. I'm a guitar guy. You know, whether it's metal or shoegaze or a little bit of, maybe not country. But for the most part, if there's guitar, I'm in it.
There is there's an artist called Skatune Network, and I think we played some of his music on our show. He does a lot of...
Skatune's great.
Yeah, he does some vid game covers, does some other pop music covers too. And he recently did a cover of Superman by... Oh my gosh.
Want to be your Superman.
By the pop punk group Goldfinger. Thank you. Jeez, I couldn't think of the name. But it's done every few lines, it turns into a different style of music. And one of the styles is shoegaze, and it's the best one. It is so good.
I wouldn't mind checking that out there. That sounds like up my alley. Maybe I will at some point.
Yeah, but it covers like everything from like jazz to hip hop to heavy metal to country music. He does a lot. It's so interesting. So yeah, the Skatune Network. And I think he posted it on Facebook. You probably find it on some other places too. And he has most of his stuff on YouTube. But okay. I digress. We are going to turn this super funky, dark, evil, but funky nonetheless, track down. And we're going to get into the part of the show we call the bonus round.
Bonus round.
Oh, I hope I saved that ammo for the last boss.
Because it's coming.
You know, that's the only reason I never finished Code Veronica.
You too?
I got to the end and I'm like, I can't fight this thing with a knife.
All my good guns were in the other character's trunk.
I was totally done. Anyway, the bonus round is where we play covers and remixes and arrangements on our theme. And this week we have a bonus round track from The Last Weekend. This is Nemesis's theme.
Nemesi?
Yeah.
Nemesis.
From Resident Evil 3 Remake, composed by Kota Suzuki and Asuka Kato. All right, we're back. We are listening to a track from picked from the last weekend. This is the Nemesis's theme from Resident Evil 3, the remake that came out on the Xbox One and PlayStation 4. It originally came on that,
but I think this version is in specifically the remake. So
yeah, this is the remake version.
PS4.
So and it's composed by Kota, Suzuki, and Azusa Kato. And I know the last weekend just ate something incredibly spicy and is probably in a lot of pain right now. So we're going to repeat this track one more time.
He did the one chip challenge. he did it with the new chip even. So
he says, man, you want to talk about stress inducing. It was one of Mr. X's themes from the RE2 remake. I decided on this one. Why? So in the original Nemesis, Nemesis would just come into an area and chase you down the stairs yelling, stars! Stars! Yeah, I remember that. In this one, he comes bursting through walls, jumping off roofs, and to make matters even worse, this darn thing will hop over you as you're running away and jump on a wall and flipping like a flipping 6-foot Spider-Man. What was Capcom thinking when they gave this thing all of these abilities? They were thinking they need something strong. The Nemesis already was a pain to fight before, but now he's a whole other level of BS, which is boo stupid. Good luck playing this thing on Inferno mode and surviving, Purnell.
I was saying boo earns.
Boo earns. But yeah, no, so I like that. I forgot that was like a whole thing, that the Nemesis in the remake was just all over the place. So that's really cool.
Yeah, but honestly, I need to get back to those games. Like, I bought both of the remake games, and I was all ready to play them. And then when I finally put in Resident Evil 2, I got Purnell. I got cocky and put it on like the hardest difficulty, where even the jerks in the gas station can kill you like 4 times over. So, as you can probably guess, I moved on to something else.
Well, back during simpler times, I think it was like January, February, we were playing the second Resident Evil 2 remake at your house.
Maybe that's what that was.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it was. Like, I was playing there, and I put it on hard, and we were like just barely getting out of the gas station at the beginning of the game.
I know. You were like, Rob, aim the gun. Rob, aim the gun.
Sometimes you gotta run, Rob. Run, Rob.
So bad.
And honestly, that's what I liked. Like, just run.
Yeah, that was one that's one we need to figure out a way to stream together, because it's just, we don't need 2 players. We just need one person playing and the other person just running commentary.
Oh, I'm all for that. Like, okay, now, first of all, Rob, there's a whole door over. There's an entire room of power-ups. Why you're avoiding it, I have no freaking clue.
Gosh. But that's something I want to figure out this year. All right, so our next track, Purnell, I don't have anything written down. I think because this came in through an email or through other channels, right?
Exactly. So this is an odd choice, but I wanted to pick it for this episode because I think it's rather thematic, and it was a rather sudden situation. So what happened was, I do reviews for the SML podcast, and the host is a friend of mine who also happens to have a lot of social contacts and communique just from, interacting with folks over the years. So he was actually able to recently put me in touch with a group called Scarlet Moon Records, which is a music composition company for video games that includes such folks as Vert, Jake Kaufman, or Dale North. And I'm also reviewing a game next week called Raise the Dead, which has music composed by these guys, and I was able to get cut from that game to play on the show. Mm-hmm. And my hope, fingers crossed, that means that we may eventually end up being able to do an interview with Vert or Dale North on the show soon, which would be freaking great, because I think those guys are both really awesome, and I think it would be awesome to chat with them on our show. But for now, I figured it'd be good just to play the track itself. So this track comes from the game Raise the Dead on the PlayStation 4, and it is called Party at the Graveyard, composed by Jake Kaufman.
so glad. That's my first time hearing this track. That was incredible. That was so good.
Look, it's honestly for me. If I didn't already have the game, but I heard the track, I'd probably be like, I should look into this game. I need to see if it's good. This track was called "Party at the Graveyard" from the game Raise the Dead on the PlayStation 4, composed by Jake Kaufman and submitted to us through Scarlet Moon Records, thanks to help from SML Podcast. This track, oh freaking god, it's so good. It's so good. And the best part about it is, like, it's one of those tracks where it just progressively gets better as it goes. I
know.
It starts, like, if you, let's say for them, you listen like the first 30 seconds and you're like, okay, I'm done. You're like, okay, it was a good track, but it needs more energy. It needs something more to it. Then you get past that 30 seconds, like, okay. Like, walking into the club now, I'm at the door, the bouncer's checking me for a weapon and for, making sure I'm allowed to get in, I'm old enough. You walk to the door and the music is a little louder. Okay, you get past, you put this thing down, and you're like, okay, they took my coat, I can walk through the door, you open the doors, and boom! The noise happens. Everyone's dancing, drinking, zombies drinking brain juice, the DJ's undead, and he's spinning all night, it's just a great time.
That dance part is like the fun. Like, I love the second half of the track. I love the way it turns into like this heavy guitar, double time drums. Sounds like a boss track. But that dance bit, the funk dance section, is too good. It's too good. That's so good.
Honestly,
is this game out yet or no?
I think it comes out next week, unless it came out on Tuesday. But otherwise, it should come out next week.
All right.
And I'm looking for it. Like I said, I'll be reviewing it on SML next week, so I'll be able to talk about it then, as far as like any dialogue.
So for next week, I want to hear about it next week. Well, we'll definitely have links to this game where you can find it on our website and on all of our social media. But if you want more information about these composers, in the bonus round, go to rhythmandpixels.com. We'll have links to the Bandcamps and SoundClouds and everywhere where you can go out and buy this music and support all of these amazing artists. All right, thanks everybody for joining us on episode 25-4 of Rhythm and Pixels. This is the horror episode for our Patreon live stream. I think we're going to call it Your Horror. How's that sound?
I actually like the idea of Satan wants your turbo duo.
Satan wants your turbo. The devil wants your turbo duo.
It's so good. It's so appropriate. But then because honestly, it's we've done multiple instances of like crazy themed episode titles where they don't necessarily mention Patreon, but it's just straight up, this is a weird title, that has to be a Patreon episode. So,
yeah, we do have a few like that where I was sort of playing around. I mean, in the past we've gone back to some normal topics and titles and things like that sort of best describe the show.
Last year's episode actually showed up on my memory today. It was called "It Came From Inside the Podcast."
Oh yeah,
and then of course, there was that string of episodes where we were always using alliteration like Patreon Pizza Party and Patreon Pasta Pazzuli and Patreon Party Palace.
Patreon Party Palace. We got to bring back the Party Palace, honestly. But that was a lot of fun. So big thank you to everyone who submitted tracks for this week's episode. And if you would like to submit tracks for our next month's Patreon episode, or if you just want to say hello, the best way to do that is over email.
rhythmandpixels@hotmail.com.
You don't have to be a Patreon member to submit tracks. We'll take them from just anyone who listens to the show and enjoys it. It's always great just to have more stuff on the show. And for more information about the show, a full track listing from all of our episodes and access to all of our episodes, go to the website.
rhythmandpixels.com.
And I know we've had some issues with some episodes on Spotify in the past. I've made some corrections to our feed and to our file hosting. So going forward, that's not a case. And going forward, a lot of those past episodes that have been missing on Spotify specifically are coming back. So just to let you know about that. You can also check us out on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. It's Rhythm and Pixels, all one word usually. You can check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/rhythmandpixels. All of our episodes are posted there with little chapter buttons that you can click if you want to skip to specific songs or parts of the show. And there's also a 24/7 music stream playing nothing but 8-bit and 16-bit classics and deep cuts. And if you actually have any music suggestions or more game suggestions you'd like to hear more of on that radio stream, send us an email. That's always good too. Because otherwise I'm just going through what I like and what Purnell likes, and then also random stuff and throwing it on there. But it's all curated. There's no like random 2-minute long tracks of sound effects. It's all curated.
Silent Hill dog theme is not playing on.
No. Although I believe the entire Solstice theme is on there. Which is like an 8-minute long opening theme on the NES, which I know you love.
I love that damn track.
Yeah, and if you'd like to support the show, you can go to rhythmandpixels.com/merch. We have some cool Rhythm and Pixels branded t-shirts and with some fun designs on them. You can check that out. And you can also go to Patreon, patreon.com/rhythmandpixels. And there, at any donation, you get access to a weekly prequel episode of me and Purnell just kind of hanging out, talking about some real stuff before we get into some less real stuff. No, it's always real.
Wavy gravy about it.
Stuff like call it the overflow from the podcast. Me and Purnell kind of catching up, which we need to do a lot more of now that we don't see each other in person as frequently. You get access to that, and you get access to a monthly live stream recorded episode, which will be this one, which gets released, but you get to hang out with us as we record it and deal with me trying to figure out the audio routing for 10 minutes before the show starts.
And me eating spicy foods. Yeah. In this case, freaking
what are you eating now?
That spicy chicken ramen sauce on pizza bites for dinner, because after today's crappy day, I wanted some junk food.
Get some of that junk food in you.
Oh, also, I should have mentioned the freaking weight vest. That could be something I wear on one of these episodes, too, to see how well I handle wearing a weighted vest on the show. You
have to stand the whole time with wearing a weighted vest. Also, for as your donation of the show, we like to give you a shout-outs at the end of every episode. And we also, at the highest donations, you can have your own message, either read by me and Purnell or read by yourself on the radio stream in rotation every 10 to 20 songs. So if you have something you want to say, if you have something you want to promote, even if you just want to say, hey, this is me and I like the show, that would be really cool to have on the radio station. So that's out there on Patreon. But we'd like to thank our Patreon members, Frankly Zappa, That Nick Walker, Mike Myers, Matt Hulmqvist, Michael Jennings, Davey Cakes, Justin Schneider from XVGM Radio, Sonic Medley, Taco, Harold Howard, Dave Taylor, Reinhard Selkova, Andreas Milberg, Dan Loughton, Sleepy S'more, Steve Miller, The Autistic Gamer 89, Cameron Worma, Christopher Shenstrom, Bobby Arson from One Up Funk, Wicked Sephiroth, Carlos from the Heroes 3 podcast, Michael Bridgewater from the Forever Sound Version podcast. We are always thinking about you, and we wish the best for you during this crazy time. And Brian Pitt, we also think about you a lot, and we wish the best for you during this crazy time, because he's stateside, so he's dealing with the same stuff we're dealing with out here.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a lot. So
fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. We're going to hold together. So anyway, thank you all very much for your continued support of our little program. And, seeing your names every week encourages us just to keep doing more and keep doing better and keep adding more fun stuff to the show.
Just being plain goofy.
Plain goofy. So yeah, that's all I've got. And don't forget to check out Purnell on the SML podcast. That's a weekly show, right?
Well, you do 2 episodes a week, but I'm usually on there once a week.
Don't listen to those other ones. Only listen to the ones with Purnell.
Hey, you. But then, honestly, yeah, but definitely listen to the ones I'm on.
And check them out on the Blown Cartridges podcast. That's also really cool.
Actually, it's related to this. Our at least most recent episode, we talked about Silent Hill, which was an interesting chat.
Interesting. And I've been playing some more Persona 5.
Good. It's about time. Stick it out.
I'm into it. I'm having fun. I'm into it. It's pretty gripping. So I like it.
I gotta tell you, it's vindicating. It's very vindicating. Hey, Rob, play this game. Now, Purnell, this is a good game.
I never denied that it wasn't going to be good. I knew it was going to be good. I just needed to sit down and actually do it. So I'm actually doing it now. But not now. Right now we're recording a show. But anyway, thank you very much, everyone, for listening to our show. Thank you to everyone who supports the show for continuing to support our show. At any donation level, anything that you do, it's really appreciated. Me and Pernell both really appreciate. I know I appreciate it. I can't speak for Pernell. Pernell?
I guess I do. No, who am I kidding? I very much appreciate it.
Pernell reluctantly agrees.
I appreciate it very much. Honestly, it's just a wonderful community. An uplifting community, to be perfectly blunt. So with that in mind, thank you for being... Actually, this may well be the friggin' end remember, but whatever. We'll get to that when we get to it.
All right, how about we do that?
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the show. My name is Rob Nichols.
And I'm Pernell.
Have a safe week. And
remember, the horror, especially if you're living in the States, is kind of real. Though it's actually kind of a bit of a horror worldwide, too. And every country has their own blight right now. And given the nature of that blight, it may be easy to fall into a state of despair, or even just, screw it, despair, just straight up despair and hopelessness. Honestly, I've been a part of that myself a few times here and there. It's a natural feeling to have when you feel overwhelmed with frustrating issues and situations. However, it's worth keeping in mind and noting that you are a person that... Why I gotta be the soul face? It's worth keeping in mind that you are still who you are, and by being who you are, you have the means to positively influence those around you and help keep their spirits up in times where otherwise they might be feeling a little less or lower on the totem pole from themselves. So try your best to be upbeat, and if you're not upbeat, try to be present. Put it that way. Try to be present for yourself and be present for those around you, because that stuff's infectious. Just as hate's infectious and spreads, so is positivity, kindness, and mindfulness. You put that out there to other people, they will latch onto that, because I'll be blunt, it's a damn drug. If you're feeling blue and someone nearby is feeling good, you want to be near the good. You want to be a part of the good. And naturally, it has a way of rubbing off on you and making you feel good too. And then other people can latch onto you, and so on and so forth. It becomes a chain of happiness and a chain of perseverance. We need to work together to deal with the BS, because if we let ourselves fall to it, then it will still be there. The light will be the thing that just disappears. We can't have that. Screw it. I ain't got time for that. Neither do you. So, I'm done rambling. Eat Cocoa Puffs. Fruit Broots the best monster cereal. And that's about all there is to that.
Fruit Brute.
Damn right. Fruit Brute, baby. So, there were monster cereals. Count Chocula.